penultimate, next to last, college football ranking will be revealed tonight at 7 Eastern on ESPN. And one team still in the playoff mix is 11-1 Alabama, coming off this miracle comeback win in the Iron Bowl on Saturday. After that throw, they will face Georgia in the SEC title game this weekend. Here's Alabama coach Nick Saban on the narrow escape.
So when I went to church yesterday, the first thing I said was, thank God what could have happened didn't happen.
Joining us now, Paul, what's your reaction to this Saban sort of giving thanks there a couple days after Thanksgiving?
Well, Dan, as you may know, Coach Saban is a practicing Catholic, and it is also a fact that Coach Saban and his wife Terry spent 2 weeks in Italy last May. Very controversial. Why is he taking 2 weeks off? I can neither confirm nor deny that he had an audience with Pope Francis.
Wow. So maybe that's coming back to help him here at the end of the Auburn game. Who knows? Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about on Get Up this morning. We're here to talk about the college football playoff, and because we have Heather Dinich, the world's foremost expert on the college football playoff, I need to ask, if Alabama wins this game, it beats Georgia on Saturday and wins the SEC title, what happens?
Two things happen, Dan. The first is that Alabama and Texas could be in a great debate in that selection committee meeting room if Texas wins the Big 12 earlier that day, because then Texas would have something that Georgia does not, a win against the SEC champs by double digits in Tuscaloosa. And as Sark says, if that was easy to do, more people would be doing it. The second thing that would happen is the committee would have a great headache as to what to do with Georgia with one loss and no conference title. And you have to remember that the bar in that committee meeting room for teams that don't win their conference championship is a lot higher. And I think it's going to be extremely difficult for Georgia or any other team that doesn't win its league this year to get in. Now, if Texas loses, if Florida State loses to Louisville, then you have a door that could open for one of those other teams. But Alabama is going to have a better resume than Texas in the end, because no one has a better opportunity to impress the selection committee than Alabama. The committee would have to weigh Alabama's resume against that head-to-head, and it might not be as easy as people think.
That's amazing to me. I just want to be clear here. Like, you're telling me that Georgia, two-time defending national champion Georgia, who has yet to lose a game, could be shut out of the playoffs with one loss this weekend, possibly behind a Florida State team that would go in with its backup quarterback. I mean, how much of that stuff is factored in? Georgia's recent history and Florida State's current state of their roster.
Recent history is not factored in, at least it's not supposed to be. Right. Human bias, whatever you want to call it, we'll see what happens there. But look, the reality of the situation is it would be unprecedented. No number one team in the era of the college football playoff has fallen out of the top four on selection day. But never before has the field been this deep. It could certainly happen.
Wow, this is amazing. Paul, I'm looking at, if Alabama wins and Georgia doesn't get in and Texas gets in over, could we be looking at a college football playoff that doesn't have an SEC team in it?
Over my dead body. That's not happening. I am not going to allow it, Dan. I mean, I'll stand outside that door in Grapevine, Texas, and demand it. I mean, and I'm not saying that because I live and work in the SEC. But what I do know is that the SEC is the best conference. I mean, in the AP poll yesterday, I think 5 of the top 11 teams are from the SEC. And you're going to tell me that Florida State, without its best player, which struggled against a 7-loss Florida team Saturday, deserves to be in, should be in over Alabama or Georgia. I mean, that is preposterous. And I don't want to say they need to blow up the playoff because they already did, and we're having 12 next year, but it would be patently absurd.
So the other question I had for you guys, Heather, Ohio State loses to Michigan in the big game over the weekend. What does that mean for the Big Ten and Ohio State's chances here?
Let's watch that tonight, guys. My biggest question is, how far does Ohio State fall in tonight's ranking? And I don't think they'll fall lower than 6, but that will be a big clue as to whether or not they can be taken seriously to get in this thing. They do have wins, obviously, against Penn State, Notre Dame. That was the blueprint for them to get in last year without beating Michigan or winning the Big Ten East or the conference title. But last year, they needed help, too. Remember, it wasn't just those wins. It was USC losing to Utah on Friday night in the Pac-12 championship game. Ohio State's not getting in this thing without help.
I do remember that, and it does seem to be the way of it for Ohio State very often. Thanks to you both for helping clear this up. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor this, especially after the rankings come out tonight. Again, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
Give me something.